digest many hard lessons in high school. No lesson is stressed more than learning how to fit in. When I was in high school in the 80s, the height of Nancy Reagan, our student body had to watch a Just Say No type video starring Charlie Sheen. I recall that the machine, then early in his distinguished history of social deviance, had run afoul of the law and been given a choice between jail or starring in an anti-drug movie funded by Pepsi. Even in the 80s, seeing Charlie Sheen as an anti-drug spokesman seemed ludicrous, but that was the decade that popularized supply-side economics and Velveeta in aerosol cans. School administrators ran the video with no apparent irony, so we accepted the futility of protest and sucked up the stupidity to remain part of the group. Lesson learned. But often the most meaningful lessons in submission come from your peers. In this respect, my friend Mike was the master. He was the last of several children, so Mike had an outsized appetite for attention. He seemed driven to exploit his parents' fatigue from raising his older siblings, and, having found success at home, he brought his hijinks to school. Everyone who knew Mike described him as being, quote, just like Eddie Haskell, the attention-hungry, politically savvy malcontent teen of 50s TV classic Leave It to Beaver. The thing about Eddie Haskells is that they're genuinely likable even though you know they're trouble. They wear you down with charm and persistence. Long experience taught me to be wary whenever Mike would smile and ask open questions, which he did every time things got slow in the lunchroom. He'd ask, "Hey man, would you boof your sister for $1 million?" I'd look at him blankly, then roll my eyes. Fuck off, Mike. No, come on, I'm serious now. Just think about it. It's $1 million. How horrible could it be? Before Supreme Court Justice Brett Kavanaugh reintroduced the term boofing to a puzzled American public and claimed it refers to flatulence, every teenager in 80s America knew that it actually refers to butt sex. So, back to Mike's question, the idea of boofing my sister was pretty horrible. But once he started, he kept chiseling, always drawing an amused crowd to watch the kabuki theater play out as it had many times before. Okay, he'd say. How about $10 million bucks? $10 million. Please shut up, Mike. Okay, I'll give you $1 billion, and you only have to boof her for 10 seconds. No, 5 seconds, $1 billion for 5 seconds. And you don't only have to touch with the tip. It's not even really boofing. Think about it. You'd never have to work another day in your life. And think of all the good you could do for your sister and your family and for humanity. That's not so bad, right?
Order.
His appeal to the greater good showed a prodigious talent for dissembling, a skill that went on to serve him well as a personal injury lawyer, a career that all his high school friends accurately predicted. Resistance in the face of Mike's cagey determination was futile, but if you could hold out long enough, the reward for sodomizing your sister would become enough to buy a sports franchise, own a private island, rescue sub-Saharan Africa, pay the national debt, and abolish nuclear weapons. Finally, broken by the relentless assaults, you'd give in, fully aware of what was coming next. Sure, Mike, I'd do it for $10 trillion. Now will you please shut up? Mike's eyes, just seconds before a picture of lawyerly reason and adult sincerity, would twinkle with glee. He'd spring out of his chair, throw his hands to his head in seeming disbelief, and exclaim for all to hear, "Oh my God! This sick bastard just said he'd boof his sister! Can you believe it? He's sick! Sick!" Most of us could believe it because we'd seen the soap opera play out dozens of times before, but it didn't stop Mike from spreading the message far and wide. Occasionally, some dimwit not privy to the farce would saunter over and ask if the thing about my sister was really true. This delighted Mike more than anything. Beyond sister boofing, Mike had a stable of hypothetical questions with which to terrorize victims. Two favorites were, would you climb up that flagpole butt naked for $1 million? And, would you lick Mr. Z's butt for $1 million? Mr. Z was our slovenly history teacher who was a cross between Barney Google and Jabba the Hutt. Those who sat toward the front of his class were assaulted by his body odor and saliva spray. You didn't want to contemplate Mr. Z's appearance, much less performing analingus on him. But none of that stopped Mike, who understood the power of spin. Ask for something long enough, and you'll eventually get it. Repeat a lie long enough, and some damn fool will believe it. But the main lesson was about compromising by choosing the lesser of two evils. If you wouldn't boof your sister, climb the flagpole naked, or rim the history teacher, Mike would drive you nuts. I'm a stubborn idealist, so I have trouble accepting the world as it is instead of how it should be, and I believe strongly in the power of reason. But reason doesn't always pay the bills. Sooner or later, most of us grit our teeth and take a job selling insurance. We join the Chamber of Commerce or the Elks Lodge and try to smile when we meet other members. We leave the downtown apartment for the gated community. We buy a minivan. Whether it's because we lack the power or imagination to say no, little by little, most of us do what we must to survive. Eventually, we sell out. We boof our sisters.